Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about macromolecules and giving you some general information. Let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Now, in our first video that you have hopefully already watched, we gave you a lot of background information on macromolecules, and that will continue in this video. In this video, we're going to focus on making sure that you understand what monomers are and polymers. They're pretty simple concepts, but until you hear them and see them and see some examples, that's our goal for this one. As you can see on my screen, this slide is about monomers. Now, monomers again is a word that you're going to hear as like polymers a bunch throughout the school year and semester. But a monomer is a simple subunit, okay, that builds larger molecules. Mono means one. You can think of it just like a cell or an atom that we talked about in chapter 2. Those single subunits build much larger things. Cells can build tissue, tissues can build organs, organs can build organ system, that kind of stuff. Atoms can be used to make molecules and to make everything else. So these monomers are the way to think about it. Now, they're not just a single thing. They can be like glucose is a monomer. So they can be pretty complex molecules, but they're just one, and multiples are put together to build polymers. Just like you can see here in the red circle below me, that's one. That would be a monomer. And then beside me here, there's a collection of monomers, and that would be a polymer. Okay. Now, this is something that you're really going to need to know, not only just for the test, but just in information in general, to have a good understanding of each of these 4 types of macromolecules. But these are the monomers. This is the list of the monomers that build each of the macromolecules. So when you're talking carbohydrates, their monomer is a single sugar, like a glucose, okay, like a galactose. Those things, they're one unit, and they're used to build multiples strung together through bonds to build a polymer. A lipid monomer, and that's not a great way of saying it, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about lipids, but theirs would be like one of their fatty acid tails when it comes to like a phospholipid. But those tails, we'll talk a bunch about those tails. They've got some pretty unique properties that we'll get into. For proteins, their monomer is an amino acid, one single amino acid. An amino acid, they're strung together to build a protein. So the monomer is amino acids. And for nucleic acid, it's a nucleotide. And when we think nucleotide, you may be thinking, okay, what is that? Well, hopefully you're familiar enough with DNA and RNA to understand what A, T, C, and G are. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. Those are the building blocks for nucleic acids, things like DNA or RNA. Okay, now we're talking polymers. Again, pretty simple, complex concept, but this is the polymer. You can see a string of individual red circles. Each of those red circles is a monomer, a single subunit, but when they're put together, they form a polymer. Now, traditionally, poly means many, but in this case, it just means more than one. One would be a monomer. When you have more than one, now you have a polymer. And again, a polymer is just a collection of monomers. And the thing to remember is that polymers, or macromolecules, okay, are built by dehydration synthesis. And that's a term, that's a concept that we just talked about in our first video. And again, another reference point to it, again, dehydration synthesis, the idea of two monomers, each with those OH attachment points, those trailer hitches that will come together. A water molecule will leave. In other words, an OH on one monomer and an a hydrogen on the other monomer will leave, forming a water molecule, and then they will bond together with the attaching element. Well, that draws the conclusion to our background information, our general information for macromolecules. And our next molecule, we'll get into carbohydrates. So we'll see you then.